Although more and more, I just don't like what Daniel Greene is up to. Yeah, he's been in a tough place. So over the last couple of months, he had to deal with some pretty alarming accusations, and I think he did a good job showing some of them were false. However, well, it was just a very odd, alarming situation all around, and I don't think the right answer is if a woman accuses you of X, send cease and desist letters. But anyway, so his corporation has been under suspicion and under attack. So his response to the crisis of Wheel of Time being canceled for now is a double decker. Now, again, I want to be fair to him. There's really two major accusations and dilemmas here, right? One is directly about him, and one is with the show itself. Because fans are going to be divided here, and they're going to divide for a while on why it was canceled, how it was canceled. And again, I want to state clearly this is an accusation, and he did deal with it head on. I don't believe him, but, it is what it is. So Daniel is a major fan of the books, no doubt about that. His videos on it are fine. My own impression of his breakdowns of the adaptation, frankly, is that he was too nice and too friendly. He was critical in a few places, and sometimes overly critical, and getting things wrong too, by the way. So he's not really a lore book expert, but he's fine. He's fine. He definitely knows the lay of the land. But I would say his reviews, for the most part, were pretty friendly and positive. Now, what's the dilemma? Well, if you are a hardcore book fan, and I want to be very clear, I am much more softcore. I do admire what Robert Jordan did, and I'm working through the books patiently, but I will be honest, I jumped ahead to the end to get to the Brandon Sanderson stuff, and that is pretty well written. I think Jordan is more of a mixed bag. That said, there is no doubt that the adaptation radically changed many aspects. In fact, counting them off would take a long time. But just to note the obvious, Rand seems a much more peripheral or minor character than he is in the books, at least the first couple of books. Also, the powers don't work like that. The channeling is supposed to be much more dangerous and complex. And also then the details about so bizarre, like Perrin out of nowhere gets a wife, and then he kills the wife in the first episode. Don't know why they did that. And you can go on and on and on. And these things just kept happening and happening and happening. So it divided the fandom that they were making wise, inevitable changes versus just that crazy, woko, pro-communist, pro-gay propaganda. It's a clearly very polarized fandom at this. So Daniel's tactic is to blame everything, and apparently everything, on Amazon. Now, again, I want to be clear, Amazon can definitely be very much criticized. But what is he up to? What is he up to? Well, let's get to it. And Chad Versity put this out there. Again, he didn't have any receipts, so I'm a little nervous. But he put out that basically Daniel, behind the scenes, was working with Amazon. In other words, he was basically a shill. Now, was he literally getting money to promote propaganda? I don't know that. And he basically exposed an email he got from the marketing team. This is not, to be very clear, it's not Rafe. It's not the showrunner. It's not Rosamund Pike. It's not the main creative team. Somebody in the marketing department asked him to be more positive in his cover. And, Daniel did a fake apology saying, I swear, guys, I fell. Yes, I fell for the Hollywood spotlight. I did go to the premiere. I did talk to Rosamund. I got fooled by the flashy nonsense. I will never do that again. But they tricked me. But the email sent him straight, said, oh God, I messed up. Oh God. Oh God. But do we know for sure that he didn't sell out? No, and he didn't really answer the question. He just said, okay, this email, oh my God, this marketing guy, he pushed me too far. And apparently he cut relations with WOT permanently and decided to go full independent and still did fairly positive reviews. Anyway, so now he's revising the record saying, guys, I've always been very critical, very harsh. Okay, I must have missed those 20 videos you didn't put out. Anyway, so, okay, but that's disputable. We don't know for a fact if he's like a paid shill. We don't. I do get angry that he's calling people like me, who called him out, grifters. And let me be very clear, Daniel has done many good videos, even good videos on Wheel of Time. And I do follow him on Twitter, and some of his tweets are very funny and very accurate about how some complaints about the books are wrong. Like some people were complaining about Moraine being gay. And Moraine, Rosamund Pike, kissing the black woman and putting in the gay. Now, being technical, it is a little weird. In the main books, as far as I understand, that is implicit. But Jordan did basically prequel novel, and there it's explicit. So they're kind of playing with the canon. But you can go either way. But still, he is right. If you're going to raise that question here on this channel, you can do that. But I would just say you need to do a little bit more research. Apparently, that is canonically, it is a little suspicious, but it is valid. You can say it's valid. But then we get to the other major dilemma. And again, let us be very clear and fair. Now, I don't like Rafe. I don't like what they did with the adaptation. Although I'm not super into Robert Jordan, I love George R. R. Martin, Stephen King, Tolkien way more. I'm way more sensitive about changes to those things. Or Spider-Man. Okay, so there are things I'm more touchy about. I'm more sensitive about Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, and the Stephen King novels. However, being fair, George Martin, Stephen are still alive, and they often authorize these changes. With Tolkien, it's more difficult. Now Stanley is dead, so it's going to be hard to judge without the canonical. It's going to be hard. So Daniel says that COVID and the virus and how Amazon responded answers a lot of questions about why season 1 is famously so dreadful and had so many stupid episodes and it did so many stupid things and just radically contradicted the books and seemed to go against the whole mythology. These things happened because of COVID and Amazon. Well, first of all, he's getting the basics wrong. And again, let me be clear. At the beginning of the video, he is more accurate that this is not Amazon. It's not even Sony. The rights holders are these people called iWatt. Who these people are, we don't really know. It seems like a shady corporation. They have the rights. They bought the rights from the Jordan estate. Now, whether the Jordan people, which is his wife basically apparently, made the wise choice, we don't know. But that's who really controls Wheel of Time, good or bad. Amazon is, basically the distributor. They host the show. They don't technically make the show. The most I can get is it's a co-production between them and Sony, but I'll be honest, after the Karate Kid Legends, I don't want to go into the Karate Kids, how much I hate that film, the way it's destroying that mythology, but this seems par for the course for the Sony people with Morbius, their really bad Spider-Man films with Venom and Madame Web, literally one of the worst films of all time. Their track record does make more sense with what happened with Wheel of Time. They weren't given enough money. They weren't given enough promotion. They didn't really care. They thought they could just do cheap Game of Thrones and cash it out and just do a bunch of silly, gay, sexy scenes, nonsense, explosions and swords and Star Wars and Jedi Force powers. And to be fair, the cast was put in a bad situation. And Josh, who I really feel sorry for because he clearly really tried. I think he did a sincere, great performance as Rand, but really wasn't given very much. And one interview was very heartbreaking. Where he says, it took us a while, but I think with season 3, we finally found the pattern. And I will say, haven't seen season 3. Season 3 is pretty good. It is actually legit good fiction.
Hindsight, but I still think the first season of the show is just mediocre to kind of bad. But then the most uncomfortable thing during this entire process finally happens to me. I'm sitting down to do post-episode release interviews for Prime, and I'm told at the end of recording one of the episodes where I wasn't entirely positive, just blanketly to everyone involved in the panel, that I should be a team player. I'm a critic. I'm a barely qualified one, but I have my principles, damn it, and that was a big red flag. I decided
it is legitimately good. I would stake my reputation. This is actually a good season, but it still has major problems. It still has major flaws. So we're way beyond COVID. And you can only blame Amazon up to a point. So some of the apologists for Jordan and now for the Wheel of Time and Rafe and the cast and the crew, and I get it. If you like the show and you really listen, I love Rosamund Pike. I'm a hardcore Rosamund Pike fan. I've seen everything by her. I don't just see the American stuff. She's done international productions. She's a very talented actress. However, I need to be honest with my audience, and I have to say, she did many things. She wasn't playing in Wheel of Time, so she was clearly playing her own. She's just playing herself. That's not Moraine. That is not Moraine from the books. They clearly made an effort to make it about her, which makes sense because she's a superstar. So I get it. And clearly they made a devil deal saying, because Rosamund admits it. And listen, let's lay out all the facts. Let's lay out the receipts. Rosamund Pike is like a hardcore reader. She reads all the time. She reads. This is an intelligent woman. She's into books. She loves books. She's done voice acting for a lot of books. I mean, one of her biggest things before this was Pride and Prejudice. So this is not a woman alien to books. However, I'll give her a lot of points. She's really honest, saying, yeah, this fantasy stuff, it's not really my thing. So this is a hardcore book reader. She's an intelligent woman, intellectual woman. She doesn't know Wheel of Time. She's not a Robert Jordan fan. So, she's honest, saying, yeah, they gave it to me. And I was like, oh, huh? What's that? And you can definitely tell she is not a hardcore fan. She's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. And she's narrating the books. It's fine. Listen, I have all the admiration for her. You get those paychecks. We already have the books narrated. Again, I am not a super hardcore purist Wheel of Time person. I'm not Wheel of Time man. I'm not super Wheel of Time man. I'm not. However, this is ridiculous. Clearly, Rafe and the producers and the writers made a choice. And if you go through the interviews carefully, they will straight out admit saying, yeah, we're moving away from the books. We're treating the books as a guide, as a reference source, but it's our own interpretation. So even calling it an adaptation is being too generous. I mean, it really is just vaguely inspired by the works of Robert Jordan. That's what they did. I get it. This thing is totally blown up in Daniel's face. He was hoping to milk this thing for a couple more seasons, make easy tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands of dollars, doing nothing, just being lazy, saying, yeah, the way Rand is, he's using the force powers in these girls. It's amazing. Oh, more lesbians? Yeah, more lesbians. Yeah, delicious. Listen, I'm a guy. Like, you're gonna tell me hot girls doing lesbians? Oh, like, hey, I'm all for it. However, with the prospect of Daisy Ridley guest starring using her force powers with Rosamund Pike taking off their clothes, hey, I'm all there for it. But that's not what Robert Jordan wrote. Those were clearly not his intentions. Even if you're just a vague, like, whatever, a passive fan like myself, yeah, I read the books, but I don't, I'm not obsessed. I mean, it's fine. I don't think this is the Dark Tower. This isn't a Song of Ice and Fire. It's fine. It's just not Tolkien. But it's fine. But it has, very dedicated fan base. I respect that. But really, blaming all of this on Amazon is ridiculous. And listen, let's be fair to, let's be strict here about Jordan and his wife. They made a choice too. They clearly had in mind that these things were to be adapted. Right? Jordan wasn't doing it for the money, but he clearly wanted these things. He has his own wish list with Halle Berry and Ben Affleck. So let's not play innocent. Nobody is pure here. Let's be very clear, including Jordan. Right? They clearly wanted to go Hollywood. However, you can only blame COVID and Amazon up to clearly Rafe and Rosamund made a decision that decisively we're moving away from the books. There is 0.0 evidence that either Rosamund or Rafe are hardcore Jordan fans. They just have no history with the fandom. So you had people who were totally alien to the Robert Jordan universe given the keys to the kingdom and said, you do what you like. And they made a choice to make it a weirdo, woke, lesbian fan fiction. And that is what they chose to do. Now, I think for the most part, it's pretty damn stupid and silly, but it is an adaptation. It does not harm the books. However, to blame this on COVID and Amazon is weak tea. That's just not true. That's just silly. And he provides zero receipts. I mean, that video was insanely no receipts. And as one of the biggest hardcore fans of the books on YouTube, one of the biggest YouTubers pushing Wheel of Time, Daniel's getting blamed correctly for not telling the truth, which is also true. And he does it admit saying he wasn't exactly honest about how deeply involved he was with Amazon. Okay, but now Amazon's the bad guy. Right. Well, yeah, but you did sell the fandom out, so now you're getting mad that some people are suspicious about you? Really? Really? Alrighty then. Well, this debate is going to continue for a while, I perceive. But Daniel's gaslighting is ridiculous. That said, he has called out some really bad criticisms, but I mean, come on, really? You're a critic now? You're a critic? When? I'd like some receipts there. Oh, he's a critic now.